one SCP for each state in the United States of America. The United States is a vast land already in our reality filled with diverse cultures, landscapes, and very, terrifying critters, to be honest. But what if I told you that there's an SCP that corresponds to each state in America? Today we're going to be taking on a journey to discover an SCP for each state in the US. Before we dive into it, I want to get some ground rules covered first before we embark on this journey, and that is, what is an SCP for anybody uninitiated to what this is. So SCP stands for Secure, Contain, and Protect. The SCP Foundation is, a fictional organization originally started on 4chan and now, on its very own website. And the main point of the foundation is to contain but also study anomalies. These could be, weird objects, weird creatures, or crazy phenomena that defy reality as we know it. Each anomaly is documented in a detailed report, including its containment procedure, its description, and its classification. And how are these anomalies classified? There are three main ones. There's a lot more, but there's three main ones. That is Safe, Euclid, and Keter, or Keter, or Qatar. I don't fucking know. And it's based on how challenging they are to contain, not how, a lot of people get this mixed up to see how, how dangerous they are, but it's mainly on how, hard are they to contain. There could be, some safe SCPs that could be world-ending, but if you just put them inside a box that nobody touches and it never leaves, it could be completely safe. Same thing with a Keter. There's a very famous, I don't recall the name, but it's a Keter SCP that it just follows you everywhere you go. It doesn't harm you or anything, but you can't really contain it. That makes it a Keter. So safe, straightforward. You put them in a box. It's all done. Euclid are unpredictable, but still, they are containable, but they need, some work to be put in. Keter are extremely, pose an extreme risk and are extremely hard to contain. So keep these classes in mind when we explore each anomaly. They will give you a general sense still on how, how terrifying they are or how dangerous they could potentially be. But they're mainly on how hard they are to contain. And we're going to be we're going to be applying one of these SCPs to each state in the United States of America, which there are 50. And without further ado, hopefully you're comfortable. Hopefully you have a glass of something, coffee, tea, water, or something else. We're not judging over here on the Serial Grifter channel. But anyway, hopefully you're installed comfortably, and let's get on with one SCP for each state in the United States. So first of all, we have Alabama with SCP-3896, also known as Big Gordo's Grub Shack. It is a diner about 2 miles from Littleville in Alabama. So kind of imagine yourself a nice little quaint town in the middle of nowhere. But what's interesting about this SCP is that it has a mind-altering field around the diner. It turns out that when you enter the diner, all of your social receptors, everything that makes you function, on a day-to-day human level, seem to be different. You enter this place, and you also come out with no memory or no real perception of what happened in there. The windows are tinted, so it's very hard for the foundation to try to get a real sense of what is happening there. So we get all this. So what is really weird about this is that it seems that the meals that are prepared by the people and the people who eat it are human remains. It's a cannibal diner. People are fed human beings. Where these human beings come from, we don't know. They're dead beforehand, and they kind of resemble, what the meal would be to us. So, for example, for steak and eggs. Oh, fuck. This is disgusting, honestly. This is one of the most disgusting SCPs. But anyway, we're getting straight into it. For steak and eggs, I think it's brains and I think it's eyeballs, kind of resembling what it would be normally. Coffee is blood, and a banana split. I mean, go read the SCP article for yourself, but it's pretty fucking gruesome. And yeah, so it seems that all the meat that is prepared there is human flesh. But the workers there, they seemingly have no regard of how they got there, and also and they don't really care about, they don't really have any like weird sensory thing that happens when they're preparing the meal. For us, it's just a normal, everyday diner, your typical diner. But the thing is, kind of if you read the article a little bit, and you kind of read what the workers are saying, is that they don't really know how they got there, but they kind of have some impression that there might be something awry, something maybe a little bit fishy. One of the workers is talking about another worker. Let's call him Jeff. I don't really recall the name, but they're talking like, hey, have you seen Jeff? No, I haven't seen him in a while. And, you kind of think that, I think what the article is trying to let you know is that the workers there are the people who are being prepared further. Anyway, a fucking great article, and a very low-key article that I recommend you to read. And one that not is, you're going to see a lot of this throughout this video, is that these articles are some of the most low-key, SCPs that you'll never fucking hear before in your life. So go read this one. It's SCP-3896. Did you hear that fucking reading, that fucking script reading? This is some high production shit, my friends. Okay, here's a popular one though. I think you might have heard this one. It's SCP-804. And this one is in Alaska, and it's called The World Without Man. SCP-804 is an art installation, or at least what is left of that art installation. It's a little globe that used to rest on a statue, and it was made by a Finnish group of artists that were very environmentally conscious, very caring about the environment. Think of Greta Thunberg, very European, caring about the environment. So originally it is a large, construct around this globe. The globe is just a little part of it, and seemingly has a lot of little globes around it, but this is just one. And it was meant originally to display inside the globe images of, firstly, a group of images displaying a vast array of wilderness untouched by mankind, and this being very peace-loving, amazing, a world with no humanity, being a utopia. And then the other section of the image, the other part, was the aftermath, when the man came, and it's showing a vast dystopian, almost communistic 1984 level of factories, just a disturbing array of visuals and images displaying humans being controlling and maniacal and just turning the world to rot. So when you activate this globe, when you activate this, this machine, this installation, if you would like, things all around it start to decay, but only human created things. So it first starts out, you activate it, and you start to see some buildings wobbling. Then they start to erode, and then you go to whatever other appliance, human-made appliance technologies, everything around it. Then it goes to the close of the human, and then a little further on, the human starts to decompose. But every other thing, like animals, trees, life that has not been touched by humans, rocks and things like that, they are perfectly fine. And it does this in around a 100-meter radius. And what seems to happen as well is that when this is activated, humans seem to be affected mentally by this, and they start to almost worship this device. And actually, it actually kills human when you're sufficiently next to it. And people are just forming around this, almost doing sacrifices around this. And the only way to really stop it is actually a funny little thing. Is either you completely destroy the object, or you destroy the town, the place where it's in. You completely fucking eradicate it, and then it's destroyed. Or what seems to be is that it has a flaw. Because it destroys everything around it that's human-made, eventually it starts destroying itself, because it was originally made, by the Finnish group, and it starts destroying itself. That seems to be its major weakness. And I just really fucking like this SCP so much, because I think it's kind of a sort of a cautionary tale that you can have with a lot of environmental people, and I think that's the main message, is that a lot of this isn't there's this group on the internet that are called the anti-natalists, and what does that mean is that they are anti-natal, which means being born. Natal means being born. They are anti the reproduction of the human people, the human species, if you would like. They think that we are a cancer on the world. A lot of people, environmentalists, they like to think that, human is just destroying the world and everything like that, and we have just a cancer, on the world, just destroying it. And I think this one kind of shows that, I think the main message of this is especially by the little ending, that almost, kind of erodes itself, is that even the people who claim to be for the environment and everything like that, they still are human, and they still affect society and everything. It's my teacher, he said, it's fucking grim, but they said, if you're on this anti-natalist thing and everything like that, oh, people are so consuming, why don't you fucking kill yourself? This is an extremely weird position, but it's sort of, it still applies. I think a lot of people like to disregard the human person. I'm rambling a little bit. I just fucking love this one because it's very interesting, and you can sort of dissect it and kind of interpret what you want on it. I think it's a great one. It has a great little message. A lot of these, SCP YouTubers, they don't really talk about sort of the writing behind it, but I really fucking like this one, and I also like the one before. It's not very, though the one before, the fucking Grubbo Shack or whatever, is a great one too. So yeah, thank you very much. So now we're gonna go on to Arizona, and we're gonna go on to, this is not really an SCP that has a name, but it's part of another SCP, an added lore, if you will, about the SCP-5525. The one we're going to be talking about today is New Atlantis, Arizona. So it's in Arizona. So we're going to go a little overview. So New Atlantis is an Atlantean. So Atlantis fucking exists in, the weird SCP world. Is an Atlantean colony located in Arizona, functioning as the capital of the revived Atlantean civilization. The status of New Atlantis is a quasi-independent tribal nation under the U.S. protection, akin to a Indian reservation. Sort of think of if you're in the U.S. or even if you're not in the U.S., you sort of have these locations inside the U.S. they kind of operate with their own sort of law, their own way of working, their own system, but still they are still connected some way politically within the U.S. I believe that people on the Indian reservation can still vote for the major election. So in this world, New Atlantis is kind of like that. Establishment: it was founded by the U.S. It was founded after the U.S. military discovered and revived an ancient Atlantans trapped in a stasis within right under fucking the Grand Canyon. So the U.S. military discovered some weird Atlantans trapped underneath the Grand Canyon. What a fucking weirdo conspiracy fucking schizoid thing this is. So the U.S. military found these Atlantans and they decided to set up shop there, creating New Atlantis. So it's located underneath the Arizona Strip in the Grand Canyon. Nobody knows exactly. It's kind of classified where exactly it is. So it is the government of how this New Atlantis works is it is governed by a 12-member board. So there are 12 people that really decide what is going on in New Atlantis. It has a strong naval tradition, has politics and has social status, all kind of linked with the Navy. So you'll have, the people, high up would be high captains, high, generals, and then people under up would be just, your regular working day soldier. That's kind of how it's structured. And there, within this, this New Atlantis, it has three main factions. First of all, the McCainist faction. So McCain, he was a runner-up for the Obama presidency. He was running with Obama, I believe in 2012. Very famous, if you don't know, I'm speaking to the non-Europeans, very famous political guy in the U.S. system, and he also was captured by the Vietnamese. Anyway, that doesn't matter. He advocates, he is somehow part of this New Atlantis. I'm sounding like a fucking schizo when I'm fucking reading this. It's fucking bizarre, but I fucking love it still. So what he advocates within the New Atlantis is a strong tie with the U.S. and kind of wants to make it its own little state, being the 51st state in the U.S. But there's also another group within New Atlantis, and that's the isolationists, and they oppose external contact. So you can think of this sort of like how the U.S. was organized. You have one group that really wanted to help Europe, really wanted to have strong ties with them, and then you have other people who wanted to be isolationists and just be its own self-governing country. And then there's you have and also another group of thalassocrats. I'm not even gonna go fucking deep into that, but they kind of want New Atlanta. They want New Atlantis to become what Atlantis was back in its prime and get a global dominance. Very fucking bizarre. Very fucking weird. What are the key events of New Atlantis? Is the U.S. Navy and the UN are negotiating a truce so that New Atlantis has its own sovereignty and it becomes its own little power. Atlantans also serve in the U.S. Navy, but are very discriminated against, and they can't really reach that high rank, as a normal American could. What a fucking bizarre one. Okay, that's a fucking. I think we've gone on all the major details. What a fucking. I really recommend you to read the New Atlantis one. Another also underground one. Fucking very interesting. I recommend you to read it. I might have got a couple of stuff wrong there, but that's the main sort of how the organization works. So we have New Atlantis in fucking Arizona. I feel like a fucking schizoid fucking reading this, but I fucking love it. Okay, now I think this is our second to last A, and that is Arkansas. So we have SCP-4051, your friendly neighborhood Keter. So Keter class. A male humanoid, Rainer Miller, with the ability to open up wormholes leading into extra-dimensional spaces containing an infinite copy of a single item. We're going to go on with the testing now. So initially, he produced small, simple objects, like metal cubes. He got out some bleach one time and some personal items like a diary, pens, and shit like that. Then he created objects with flaws, like a hollow phone or books filled with gibberish, showing that he has some sort of trouble understanding objects. Then he tried to manifest impossible objects, leading to a cognitohazard that harmed the whole research team that did this investigation. And if you don't know what a cognitohazard it is a type of idea or something that is so, above the comprehension of the human brain that it's no longer understandable and no longer comprehensible, and it just kind of leads to a human just fucking collapsing almost, because the idea of it is so stressing, so weird. We're going to talk about the containment breach. So Rainer tried to break out multiple times using his, ability to manifest armor and bombs to escape, and this caused a massive security response. We're going to talk a little bit about SCP-4051's background, and where the Foundation first learned about Rainer was in August 2012, after YouTube videos of him showed up using his powers to fight criminals. The Mobile Task Force captured him and brought him to Site-17 for further study. We're going to take a little bit about the therapy that they did on this guy. So Dr. Yanisa, a therapist, developed a good rapport with Rainer, who expressed, a nice feelings of isolation and real distress. He began showing signs of distress, including nightmares and a real emotional strain due to his traumatic past. Now, they tried to make a machine to replicate Rainer's ability, but it malfunctioned, producing several incorrect objects. Every time, what seems to happen is that Rainer is just a little kid, and he's trying to do good in the world by either, helping out the Foundation or, like how he's discovered stop with his YouTube videos, trying to stop criminals. He's kind of your superhero origin story. But what seems to happen is that the Foundation can't let a superhero run amok, even if he's a good guy, because of the danger that it could leave. So this leaves the guy, the little kid, in a fucking weird, bizarre predicament. He can't use his powers for good. He can only just fucking do what the Foundation wants him to do, and seemingly what the Foundation wants him to do is doing these weird fucking cloning, producing objects. So this is a fucking weird, nice tale that I really love. That shows that, the Foundation, they're kind of morally, kind of like our government, morally ambiguous, weird, not really the nicest people on planet Earth. Now, moving on to C, and that is California. And that is SCP-2000. And we have a fucking amazing one for you boys. SCP-2000, and this is a thomule. And what a thomule is to the SCP universe is pretty much a SCP that contains other SCPs, or is used to contain other SCPs. And what SCP-2000 is, or SCP Deus Ex Machina, is a giant facility underneath the Yellowstone National Park that has enough genetic information to clone anybody on planet Earth and is capable, I think, if I remember what I read correctly, it's 10,000 people per day that they clone. So it's a fucking giant fucking facility underground that is designed to be humanity's last hope. There's a story around this SCP, not just this, this fact of this underground facility, but I really recommend for you to read it for yourself because it's so fucking interesting and really weird. Very X-Files-y if you're into that stuff, so I don't want to spoil it. But what I will talk about is apparently the facility. Nobody really knows how long it has been there. So what I think the sort of message behind it is that we, or at least the humans in the SCP universe, probably came from this facility and built out of that facility. And sort of whenever there's a big catastrophic event, like a bit SCP fucking smashing the world, what comes after is people and clones coming out from this facility. So it's a sort of cycle. So we don't really know how fucking long humans have been on Earth, at least in the SCP Foundation, my friends. So what I genuinely I really like this SCP. It's probably one of my favorites. Really recommend for you to read it. Great fucking read. By the way, read any of these. I really like. Most SCP articles are nicely done, at least the ones that I've chose for you. So yeah, I really recommend for you to read them. So now we're going on to the great state of Colorado, and that is the Laughing Men. Another great one for you guys. So this is SCP-2419. So SCP-2419 is a hazardous waste disposal facility in Colorado. It was constructed in 1954 by the Foundation. So it's one of the very few SCPs that was created by the Foundation. You're gonna find out that the SCP Foundation has fucked up royally with this one. So constructed in 1954 by the Foundation, it's meant to handle medical and anomalous waste. The facility consists of 3 main units: a long-term storage facility, Unit A waste processing facility, Unit B, and an incineration unit, Unit C. So what is the main creature of this facility, which is SCP-2419-A? This is a human-shaped, hostile, immortal entity found in Unit C's incinerators. These entities exhibit regenerative abilities, a lack of self-preservation instincts, and attack anyone on sight. They are suppressed by the incinerator's heat, but pose a severe containment risk if these incinerators ever fail. So there are a couple of notable incidents and findings surrounding these creatures, these humanoid entities, if you will. And I'm going to talk about a couple of them, and that's the 1975 incident, the bite of 1975, if you will. They didn't bite anything. I want to make a Markiplier joke. Anyway, these entities emerged when one of the incinerator's burners were turned off, and this led to personnel injuries and a containment breach of the facility. Another important another important finding when it came to one of these SCPs is an interview happened with them, and it showed that these creatures had no emotional response and just violently attacked anybody they could really get their hands on. So apparently, what this means is that when they are incinerated, when they are kept in these incinerators, they are burnt. They do not care. They have no emotion towards whatever happens to them. They are just alive to kill and attack on sight. And I really like these creatures. I like having sometimes a creature that just has no emotion, no backstory, and just attacks anything they see on sight, and has no regard for themselves either. So these are the main, key elements of it. A couple of ethical concerns arose around this, and that is the sort of process and the inhumane process of the SCP Foundation actually creating these SCPs, and apparently it just keeps growing and growing because there needs to be a place, to get rid of environmental waste and anomalous waste. When it comes to the SCP Foundation, they have a bunch of shit that they need to incinerate, they need to get rid of, and this is the place to do it. And what happens is that it apparently creates these creatures that have no, regard for humanity whatsoever. And I think the sort of link you can make back to us is that we also have, uranium. I believe I hope I'm not saying some bullshit. Uranium and, stuff that comes from nuclear wastes that needs to be thrown away, that needs to be taken care of. And we don't really have a place to put them either. We just put them fucking in the fucking ocean. The Japanese have fucking polluted the Yellow Sea waters because they fucking put their nuclear waste in the fucking bottom of the ocean. And this is not just this is not a fucking dig at Japan, but every single country. I think most countries that have gone nuclear, have this problem of where to put the waste. And if it ever backfires on us, somebody's drilling, I don't know, fucking somewhere in like 100 years, doesn't know where they're fucking drilling, and fucking, I don't know, some shit could happen. And I think this kind of follows that sort of logic, and it's interesting. You always find, I think with any piece of media, is that there's always at least some element that kind of refers back to reality a little bit. Even in the SCP universe, you can always, I think we had the instance of the one in Alaska, the globe, that kind of refers back to the environmental movement, and this kind of is the other side of that a little bit. I fucking like these. I like SCP a lot, and I didn't know we were gonna see so many parallels to how we work. So it's very fucking interesting. Now we're gonna go to a smaller state, one of the first states, and also one of the first SCPs, and that is Connecticut, and that is the Concrete Man, SCP-014, SCP-14. We're in the beginning, boys. And that is SCP-14, the Concrete Man. Object class safe. He is contained in site redacted and is seated in an armchair near to a window and constantly playing classical music from the 40s and from the 30s. Your old classical tunes. SCP-14, formerly known as Robert Chefford, is a Caucasian male, approximately 30 years old, with black hair and brown eyes. He was institutionalized in 1915 at the Norwich Asylum in Connecticut for claiming that he was cursed to live forever and will eventually turn into concrete. Discovered by the SCP Foundation. Discovered by the SCP Foundation due to rumors about his immobility and his immortality. So he's just a still man, not moving. What are his anomalous properties? He shows no signs of aging or metabolism. Doesn't require any food or water or air except for speech. That's the only thing he can do is really talk, apparently. Apparently he's immobile everywhere except for his eyes. He can look around, and his vocal apparatus. He can speak. He seems to have no muscle atrophy, even after being decades in immobility and not moving. He seems to be mentally stable, but he's largely uninterested in events post his confinement. So he doesn't care about the news, he doesn't care about what's going on today, he doesn't care about the stock market, doesn't care about Trump, Biden, whatever. But what's interesting about this SCP, but apparently a doctor in the Foundation, Dr. Redacted, we don't know who he is, suggests that SCP's condition could stem from a mind over body phenomena. He believes himself to be concrete and immortal, and his body adapts to his belief. I like this one because it almost suggests that SCP-14, the only reason why he is immortal and the only reason why he doesn't move is because his mind chose that he decided to be this way. And I think you can apply this to, here on Earth. A lot of people, they think themselves, not happening to everybody, by the way, but they think themselves into being sick. You see a lot of this. Oh, I hope I don't get sick. Oh, I'm always sick. And what your mind tells you eventually comes in to reality sometimes. I'm not saying all the times. I'm not a fucking Mooney. I'm not a fucking crazy person, but there's some sort of play that what your mind believes sometimes happens to yourself. And this might be the case for SCP-14. He might just be fully normal. His mind told him that he's going to be immortal and he's going to be a concrete man, and that's what happens. Or maybe that's how it applies in the SCP universe. A fucking great read. A nice, simple, weird one for you to ponder over. I like these original SCP-14s, not with this grand conspiracy or anything like that. Just a simple story about a man that you can sort of question a little bit. Now, we're going on to the great state of Joseph Robinette Biden, Delaware, and that is SCP-2553. Object Class Euclid. So, SCP, what is the SCP-2553's containment procedure? It's an organization of certificates stored securely at Site 233 in an archival storage box. Its legal seal is kept in a locked container, and containment is supported by a specific legal framework involving flags and bills of attainder. The Foundation staff, appointed as SCP's 2553's board of directors, must convene quarterly to ratify containment resolution. All participants are screened for psychiatric stability, and meetings are overseen by the Foundation's legal counsel. Legal systems worldwide are monitored for filling or activities related to SCP-2553. So what is SCP-2553? It's an anomalous legal entity accidentally created during a multi-jurisdictional tax litigation case. It is self-contained. It is a self-contained corporate entity with no external shareholders possessing an independent legal agency. SCP-2553's existence became known when it began filling by itself bizarre legal documents worldwide, some of which unintentionally granted it significance and legal power, such as the ability to amend contract, own land, and approve merger. These fillings range from nonsensical to highly sophisticated, often leading to arbitrary and disruptive actions such as purchasing land, approving bank mergers, revising legal codes, ensuing court order, and prohibiting zeppelins in Moldova or declaring war to Brazil. Okay, so what this thing is, if you got anything that I was fucking saying, I was reading the article pretty much word for word because my brain is too small. I have too much of a European-sized brain to understand what is this thing. But what this seems to be is that it seems to be a legal entity. And I don't mean by somebody actually like, you know, a group of people. It's an own legal entity. It's somehow, nobody knows exactly, but it somehow moves by itself, working around. I don't think it actually has a mind. It's just this legal thing, this legal entity that we kind of constructed, that kind of constructs itself. It's a very weird one, but I really like it. I really do, because you always hear this sort of legal entity, legal agent, and some part of your mind kind of imagines like a weird thing in the air that can almost control itself. You know, a financial agent, an agent in the, you know, sometimes you refer to wildlife, a section of the wildlife as its own legal agent, a company as its own legal agent, and you kind of imagine who's behind that legal agent. Well, in this scenario, it's like nothing. It's like fucking air. It's very weird to describe. I really like this one a lot. Very, very fucking good. Now, the next one is a crazy one that I bet you none of you, probably maybe one person out there has heard of this one. This one is a fucking amazing one. I really like this one. So, and it's a really horrifying one too. So, this is in Florida, SCP-2558, Horseshoe Beach First Baptist Church. This is a Baptist church. It's a fucking haunting anomaly that is submerged in the Florida Ocean. It is the remains of a Baptist church now resting on the Gulf of Mexico floor in the bottom of the ocean. It's about 69 kilometers northwest of Horseshoe Beach in Florida. Its structure, though, is not stationary. It slowly drifts, slowly but surely, across the ocean floor, about 500 centimeters per day. So very slowly creeping itself to the coast, and approximately will attain landfall on October 31st, 2046. What makes this SCP truly unsettling and fucking disturbing is its weekly ritual. Every Sunday at 10:11 a.m. on the dot, the church and its content return exactly where they were before. January 3rd, 1971. And when I mean everything comes back from January 3rd, 1971, the churchgoers do too. So they reanimate every Sunday at 11:10 a.m. just to drown, a couple of minutes later with no real hope of ever coming back. This is a fucking haunting haunting story. That imagine, coming back every time, but every time you come back, you're in a fucking ocean and you drown. I think the only real glimmer of hope that this SCP has is that eventually it will reach landfall in 2046. So maybe they might be alive back then, because apparently they always come back to where the church, was. So yeah, I this one is a very bizarre, like haunting and very weird image. I really like this a lot. Very fucking creative. Hats off to this one. And now we are going to Georgia. And this is one of my favorite SCPs. And I really recommend for you guys to read it by yourself. It's not a scary SCP. It's not a monstrous. It's not a haunting, world-ending SCP. But it is a very interesting and almost philosophical? Did I just fucking fucked it up? It's interesting SCP. I can't find the word for philosophy now. But it's SCP-5322. And SCP-5322 is a one-way road located in Hatchet, Georgia, the middle of nowhere in Georgia. Any vehicle that travels down this entity with its occupants, eyes closed, only with the eyes closed or, otherwise obscured, will vanish from existence. It's a one-way road that if you go down there and you close your eyes while you reach the end of the road, you vanish, my friend. Agent Simeon Woods was taken, had the task of investigating this SCP. He entered this road and documented his research and documented his experience with audio recordings. Agent Woods his first recording was him talking about going down this endless road, seeing structures including horses, diners, and farms, and seeing people along this road and along these places setting up shop there and living their lives there. As Agent Wood traveled further down the road, he encountered fewer and fewer structures. Eventually, he reached an endless field of reeds, and he apparently reached a bright light and fell silently. After this, Agent Woods' vehicle reappeared at the end of this road in reality several months later, and Agent Wood was found dead inside the vehicle with a smile on his face. I really recommend for you to read this one. It really requires a deep sense of it, and you're going to take something out of it. And what I can lead you on is that from my understanding of this SCP-5322, note that down, boys. You're going to like it because it kind of represents life and how some people, they like to stay on the side of the road, stay in one place, but other people like to go down that road and reach the finish line and get to their goals. Speaking of the end of the road, speaking of the end of our goals, we have finished this part at least. So we have 10 down and about 40 more to go. And the next one, for the people who are listening to the supercut, it's going to be Hawaii. For the rest of you, you're going to need to wait a little bit longer. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Had a good self, and I'm going to make this quick because if this is a supercut, I want the next part to be right there. So thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a good day, and continue on if you are continuing on, my friends.